I remember they had a tray, and on the tray there was a knife, it was a corkscrew, it was a glass bottle, it was a candle, and it was a cigar on the tray. And I remember all of them had to stick it in me. And I will never forget how Bill Cosby lit the cigar and put it out on my vagina, where on my face. I'm just yelling, I'm 13 in the picture, like I'm like, "Ee!" On the picture, it's like that. I remember he snatched me off that table, put me in a dark room, and then I woke up again being anal, and it was like the whole party was fucking me. Like when I come to, they looking at me like, when I look at certain celebrities, because he was having me in public, and she was the one to tell him, you need to stop having her in public. And then that's when he started locking me in the tunnels and taking me to the Playboy Mansion or hiding me at Bill Cosby house, but he'll move me through the tunnels, and the tunnels were in his room, and it was under the rug, but where his bed is on top of, but that's the entrance way to get in the tunnels. You know, they got my pictures out here
with the food on you and they're eating off of you.
Yes.
How old were you in those photos?
I was 13. I didn't turn 14 till the end of that year. I don't turn, like, my birthday is in December. Need help. They got my pictures out here. Who put my pictures out here?
So Misha, yeah, definitely that part. Let's talk about those photos that's all over the internet. So basically that's you on the table with the food on you and they're eating off of you.
Yes.
How old were you in those photos?
I was 13. I didn't turn 14 till the end of that year. I don't turn, like, my birthday is in December. It's like it goes in and out. I remember trying to escape. I remember the brown children. I remember being locked in the cage with these brown kids. I don't know what race they were, but I know they looked at black, but they didn't speak English.
How many kids would you say was in there with you?
Had to be like 30 or 50 kids, but it kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller because they were hunting these babies. It got like, it was like, until I noticed it, I was just in the cage. But before they like took me out the cage and put me back in the cage, they had me these babies with them. I remember him shooting his baby. The baby had to be no more than 5 or 6. This boy, he hunts me in my dream, and he is the age he probably would have been now, but he hunts me in my dreams. Like when I have out of body experience, and like it's like he's chasing me. I remember he shot that baby, and I was like, I'm not gonna stop him. And he pop, pick up the knife. So I picked up, and I was just going like this. And the baby up had to be no more than 5 or 6, to be honest. He had me bathing them, feeding them, washing them off, and bathing them, feeding them. I remember me being in the cage. I kept letting them out the cage. I remember I kept opening the cage, letting them out, and like they used to have to get them and run after them, get them. I remember them being in there, and we was saying our names, and I was like Lamisha, and one said her name, and then she was talking in her language, and I ain't hear nothing, but she was like, fight. So every time we got out the cage, it was like we all, like when it was time to get ready, everybody having sex, that's when I started fighting back. I remember
I know it's hard. I know it's hard.
I remember they had a tray, and on the tray there was a knife, it was a corkscrew, it was a glass bottle, it was a candle, and it was a cigar on the tray. And I remember all of them had to stick it in me. And I will never forget how Bill Cosby lit the cigar and put it out on my vagina. Yes. I never came forward to his case or whatever, but you know, he had Jane Doe's, but that opened up all the old stuff that he been doing, you know. But I never came forward in that because my grandmother never took me. She never reported me missing, and she never took me to do a police report. And as I'm calling, getting help from these lawyers, it's like nobody can help me. And like I need help with a lawyer. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like I know that's me. Like I can provide pictures, not the picture that they have, because they have the original. The police had the original copy of that picture of me. You know what I'm saying? They had the original copy of that picture of me. I remember he did what he did to me. And then when it was time for Jennifer Lopez, she was there with a guy and he was standing there looking disgusted, but didn't nobody save me. She stuck that glass in me, and after that, like, but my eyes were booked the whole time, and they put a blindfold on me. I remember them beating the fuck out of me. I remember them hog tying me. I remember them all being mad at me because I put snake venom in everybody's drinks and shit, because everybody acting like they couldn't remember. But when this witchy lady, she gave me she was in a red room, and the room had mirrors everywhere, and it was a yellow snake in the damn sink. She gave me the venom, and whatever she gave me, it made me still be numb. But whatever she gave me, it made me coherent. Like I was coherent to everything, but I still couldn't move. You know what I'm saying? And I put it in everything. And I remember Kris Jenner being mad about it, and I stabbed her in her left side of her shoulder, like right here. This is where I stabbed her, right there.
You know, the dinner party is structured as a narrative through Western civilization, and the way Western civilization is usually presented is through the lives and accomplishments of various heroes. So in the case of the dinner party, that same civilization is presented through the lives of female heroes. And I decided I wanted the plates to rise up as you moved around the triangular table as a metaphor for liberation. But it isn't just a straight rise. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down, because actually that relates to the currents of history, that it hasn't been a straightforward progress. There have been periods that have been better and worse for women through history, and the rise and fall of the plates chronicles that. And then, of course, with the rise of the international feminist movement in the 19th century, then the plates begin to just develop and develop and develop and start pushing off the plate surface, trying to get off the table, because after all, women don't belong on a table.
In 1974, a woman named Marina Abramovic walked into a gallery to do a performance that would shock the world. Known as Rhythm Zero, Abramovic invited participants to do anything they desired to her for 6 hours using 72 objects, including scissors, a whip, and even a loaded gun. Everything started out calmly, but soon things started to heat up. As in the third hour, all of her garments were cut off by a man with a sharp blade. This was just the beginning, as within the next hour her throat was slit so that her blood could be sucked. Her body was subjected to a number of small sexual attacks. Soon a battle broke out between the spectators when a loaded weapon was pressed to her temple, and her finger was twisted around the trigger. Rhythm Zero still remains a controversial and thought-provoking piece.
Now, let's go back in time. It's 1974. There is the gallery somewhere in the world. And there is a young girl, age 23, standing in the middle of the space. In the front of her is a table. On the table, there are 76 objects for pleasure and for the pain. Some of objects are a glass of water, a coat, a shoe, a rose, but also the knife, the razor blade, the hammer, and the pistol with one bullet. There is instructions which says, I'm an object. You can use everything on the table on me. I'm taking all responsibility, even killing me. And the time is 6 hours. The beginning of this performance was easy. People will give me a glass of water to drink. They give me rose. But after, very soon, there was a man take the scissor and cut my clothes. And then they will take the thorns of the rose and stick in my stomach. Somebody take a razor blade and cut my neck and drink the blood. And I still have the scarf. The women will tell the man what to do. And the man didn't rape me because it was just a normal opening, and there was art public, and they're with their wives. They carry me around and put on the table and put a knife between my legs. And somebody took the pistol and put a bullet and put against my temple. And another person take the pistol and they start fight. And after 6 hours was finished, I start walking towards the public. I was a mess. I was half naked, I was full of blood, and tears was running in my face. And everybody escaped. They just ran away. They could not confront myself with myself as a normal human being. And then, what happened is I went to the hotel. It was at 2 in the morning. And I looked myself in the mirror. And I had a piece of gray hair. All right, please take your blindfolds. Welcome to the performance world. First of all, let's explain what is the performance. So many artists, so many different explanations, but my explanation of performance is very simple. Performance is mental and physical construction that performer make in a specific time in the space in the front of audience, and then energy dialogue happen. The audience and the performer make the piece together. And the difference between performance and theater is huge. In the theater, the knife is not the knife, and the blood is just ketchup. In the performance, the blood is the material, and the razor blade or knife is the tool. It's all about being there in the real time, and you can't rehearse performance because you can't do many of these times things twice, ever. Which is very important, the performance is, you know, all the human beings are always afraid for very simple things. We are afraid of suffering, we are afraid of pain, we are afraid of mortality. So what I'm doing, I'm staging this kind of fears in the front of audience. I'm using your energy. And with this energy, I can go and push my body as far as I can. And then I liberate myself from these fears. And I'm your mirror. If I can do this for myself, you can do for you. After Belgrade, where I was born, I went to Amsterdam. And I've been doing performances since last 40 years. And here I met Ulay, and he was the person I actually fall in love. And we made for 12 years performance together. The knife and the pistols and the bullets I exchange into love and trust. So to do this kind of work, you have to trust the person completely, because this arrow is pointing my heart. So heart is beating and adrenaline is rushing and so on. It's about trust. It's about total trust to another human being. Our relationship was 12 years, and we work on so many subjects about male and female energy. And as every relation comes to an end, ours went too. We didn't make phone calls like a normal human being do and say, this is over. We walked Great Wall of China to say goodbye. I start from the Yellow Sea, and he starts from the Gobi Desert. We walked, each of us, 3 months, 2,500 kilometers. It was the mountains, it was difficult, it was climbing, it was ruins, it was, going through the 12 Chinese provinces. This was before China was open in '87. And we succeed to meet in the middle, to say goodbye. And then our relation stopped. And now I completely changed the way how I see the public. And one very important piece I made in those days, it was Balkan Baroque. And this was the time of the Balkan Wars. And I wanted to create some very strong, charismatic image, something that can serve for any war, any time, because Balkan War now is finished, but there's always some war somewhere. So here I'm washing 2,500 big cow bloody bones. You can't wash the blood. You never can wash shame of the wars. So I'm washing these 6 hours, 6 days, and worms are coming on these bones and becoming possible, an unbearable smell. But then something stays in the memory. I want to show you the one who really changed my life. And this was the performance in MoMA, which just recently I made. This performance, when I said to the curator, I was just going to sit at the chair, and there will be empty chair in the front, and anybody from the public can come and sit as long as they want. The curator said to me, that's ridiculous. This is New York. This chair will be empty. Nobody have time to sit in the front of you. But I sit 3 months, and I sit every day 8 hours, the opening of the museum, and 10 hours on Friday when the museum is open, 10 hours, and I never move. And I remove the table, and I'm still sitting. And this changed everything. This performance, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, will nothing happen. But the need of people to actually experience something different. The public was not anymore the group. Relation was one-to-one. I was watching these people. They would come and sit in front of me, but they have to wait for hours and hours to get to this position. And finally, they sit. And what happened? They are observed by other people. They are photographed. They are filmed by the camera. They are observed by me. And they are nowhere to escape except in themselves. And that makes the difference. There was so much pain and loneliness. There's so much incredible things when you look in somebody else's eyes. Because in the gaze, without total stranger, that you never even say one word, everything happened. And I understood when I stood up from that chair after 3 months, I'm not the same anymore. And I understood that I have a very strong mission, that I have to communicate this experience to everybody. And this is how, for me, was born the idea to have Institute of Immaterial Performing Arts. Because thinking about immateriality, performance is time-based art. It's not like a painting. You have the painting on the wall and next day is there. Performance, if you are missing it, you only have the memory or the story of somebody else telling you, but you actually miss all thing. So you have to be there. And in my point, if you talk about immaterial art, music is the highest, absolutely highest art of all, because it's the most immaterial. And then after this is performance, and then everything else. It's my subjective way. This institute is going to happen in Hudson, upstate New York. And we are trying to build with Rem Koolhaas idea. And it's very simple. If you want to get experience, you have to give me your time. You have to sign the contract before you enter the building that you will spend there full 6 hours. You have to give me your word of honor. It's something so old-fashioned. But if you don't respect your own word of honor and you leave before, that's not my problem. But it's 6 hours, the experience. And then, after you finish, you get certificate of accomplishment. So get home and frame it if you want. This is orientation hall. The public come in, and the first thing you have to do is to dress lab coats. It's this importance of stepping from being just a viewer into experimenter. And then you go to lockers and you put your watch, your iPhone, your iPad, your computer, and everything digital and electronic. And you are getting free time for yourself for the first time. Because there's nothing wrong with technology. It's wrong our approach to technology. We are losing every time we have for ourselves. This is the institute to actually give you back this time. So what you do here, first you start slow walking. You start slowing down. You're going back to simplicity. After slowing walking, you're going to learn how to drink water. Very simple. Drinking water for maybe half an hour. After this, you go into the magnet chamber, which you're going to create some magnet streams on your body. Then after this, you go to crystal chamber. After crystal chamber, you go to eye-gazing chamber. After eye-gazing chamber, you go to chamber that you are lying down. So it's the three basic positions of human body: sitting, standing, lying, and slow walking. And then the sound chamber. And then after you saw all this and prepare yourself mentally and physically, then you are ready to see something long duration, like in immaterial art. Can be music, can be opera, can be theater piece, can be film, can be video, dance. You go to the long durational chairs because now you're comfortable. And in long durational chairs, you're transported to the big place where you're going to see the work. And if you fall in sleep, which is very possible because it's been a long day, you go into transported to the parking lot. And you know, sleeping is very important. In sleeping, you're still receiving art. So in the parking lot, you stay for a certain amount of time, and then after this, you just, you know, go back, you see more of the things you like to see, or go home with your own certificate. So this institute is, right now, is virtual. Right now, I am just making my institute in Brazil, then it's going to be in Australia, then it's coming to here, to Canada, and everywhere. And this is to experience kind of simple method, how you go back to simplicity in your own life. Counting rice will be another thing. You know, if you count rice, you can't make life too. How to count rice 6 hours? It's incredibly important. You know, you go through this whole range of being bored, being angry, being completely frustrated, can't finish the amount of rice you're counting, and then this unbelievable amount of peace you're getting with satisfying work is finished, or counting sand in the desert, or having the sound isolated situation, that you have headphones that you don't hear anything, and you're just there together without sound, with the people experiencing silence, just a simple silence. We are always doing things we like in our life, and this is why we are not changing. We do things in life, it's just nothing happened if you always do things the same way. But what my method is to do things I'm afraid of, the things I fear, the things I don't know, to go to territory that nobody ever been, and then also to include the failure. I think failure is important, because if you experiment, you can fail. If you don't go into that area and you don't fail, you are actually repeating yourself over and over again. And I think that the human being right now needs a change. And the only change to be made is a personal level change. You have to make a change on yourself, because the only way to change consciousness and to change the world around us is to start with yourself. It's so easy to criticize how is different the things in the world and are not right, and the governments are corrupted, and is hunger in the world, and is wars and killing. But what we do on the personal level, what is our contribution to this whole thing? Can you turn to your neighbor, the one you don't know, and look at them 2 full minutes in the eyes right now? I'm asking 2 minutes of your time. That's so little. Breathe slowly. Don't try to blink. Don't be self-conscious. Be relaxed. And just look complete stranger in your eyes, in his eyes. Thank you for trusting me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, what was Marina like when we met in 1975 in Amsterdam? She was very much fatal. She had an enormous Balkanesque temperament and stamina. I do remember at the very beginning, I found her a little witchy.
I don't know. I think he was like, in my point of view, he was self-made man. He studied to be engineer and not to be an artist. Then he became an artist. Then he had very great talent to work with photography, and he was, you know, everything he learned by himself. It's so different than my education. It was different. My education was, you know, I had piano lessons and French lessons and English lessons. I went to school. I had a academy. I finished academy. I finished post diploma. You know, all thing was very different, and he was much more wild and much more, you know, the kind of experimental about his life and about everything he did, and how, you know, and in Amsterdam, who was a very interesting place in the 70s. And I came from the Yugoslavia, where my mother would not let me after 10 in the evening to go out. So when I came to Amsterdam and I met him, I had so much freedom that I was afraid what to do with it. And he showed me that freedom. I mean, just that he was so interesting in transgender. He was so interesting in the, you know, the nightlife, and working with all these interesting creatures of night in his Polaroids and making the work. It was fascinating. I never knew this world and didn't know even exist. And later on, when we just start our relationship, we made each other 2 postcards. And one postcard I say to him, "Pour mon chien, chien russe," because he looks like this Russian, you know, hunting dog. And he wrote in German, was his original language, "For meine liebe kleine Teufel," for my beautiful small devil. So it was me. And that was the beginning. He was interesting to me. He was, you know, interesting to somebody to know more. And I had an immediate, very strong attraction.
She was about to perform a performance she had done before, I think, at Galerie Grinsinger in Innsbruck, titled Thomas Lips.
When I met Ulay in 1975, he was different than anybody I ever saw. He had half face with long hair, lipstick and full makeup and eyelashes, and other half of the face was unshaved and short hair. He was half man and half woman. But my fascination about him was his look, and then he was very gentle and very tender, and I remember that he was very helpful for me to, you know, I was doing performance for TV at that time. I think.
So she would re-perform her own performance she did prior. Included a small table with a bottle of red wine, a jar of honey, a razor plate, a little spoon, and a whip, like a leather whip.
I was cutting that time 5-point star for that TV program on body art. He really helped me to heal my wounds. He take care of them. He put the gauze. He was really somebody I trust him right away.
I went to her and I looked at the star. She was a little exhausted, of course. I mean, Marina is extremely strong. She can have a lot, especially things she self-inflicts. She can have a lot. And then I started nursing her wounds. And I think that was the touch.
I tell to everybody, "Oh, but this is my birthday," and he said, "This is my birthday too."
And she said, "Can you prove that?" I said, "Well, I don't carry a passport with me around, but I have a little pocket agenda, and I have this marotte. When I buy a new agenda, the first thing I do, I rip off November the 30th page, and that's what I could show."
We both had a, you know, diary with the 30 November rip-off because I hated my birthday. I was so sad on my birthday and I never liked it, and I always got from my parents wrong presents. So the first time I would take and would buy a new diary, I was always 30 November take out. He'd ripped the same. And then also we had the same way of putting our hair together. He both had a long hair and he was fixing his hair with chopsticks, and as me. So it was beginning of something, you know, curious, something very emotional and very sexual.
We made a deal to come together again. Well, to make it fair as possible, we decided to meet again at a geographic place right in the middle between Amsterdam and Belgrade.
And then we decided to meet in Prague, which was a geographical middle between Amsterdam and Belgrade.
And of course, it became more and more love, physical love, sexual love, emotional love, soul, brother, sister love, whatever. And that was actually the decision to get together.
And there we decided, let's live and work together.
We had rolls of paper, stretching it along the wall, making drawings, writing, you know, expressing actually everything what she or I could do in order to meet, to merge.
But when we was together, he was really hard worker and he was obsessed about the work. And this was something that I have also. So I felt really very familiar and this was really great. And it's just, you know, he have this fragility that you don't see right away. But it is, and only when I know about his love story and life story, and especially when I met his mother, this picture came much more clear for me, you know, how difficult where he come from and how much was, you know, in his life, situations that you have to deal with. I'm born in Belgrade and I was working there till I decided to left and to start working with Ulay together. I meet Ulay in Amsterdam.
Yeah, in Holland, but I didn't leave the country. Marina left the country and I didn't leave the country, but we found in Holland for some work we did together for Dutch television. And I think it was not the work why we met and why we are together, it was something else. And out of that, I mean, there was a relation before, and out of that we start working together because there are not many people living and working together.
Now we decide actually to leave our fixed place, like in the town, living in the town, and to take that car and put everything what we need, and we just move, and we call that permanent movement. And in that permanent movement, we. What you're seeing in Radio Uno is this is the 2 years of our relationship by that time, so it's very beginning.
It is so sweet. It is so sweet, and living in this little ugly car for 5 years, and you know, it says so much about our love affair. It says so much about our acceptance to each other.
Yeah, I knit all the pullovers we wear, all the clothes. We will milk in the sheep in the mountains and get sausage and cheese and bread, and that we will eat. We had a dog, Alba, who was, you know, Albanian shepherd, which we love very much, and she keep us warm in the very cold nights.
Marina looked so happy. I looked very happy. We both lived out of the car.
Our cars would be frozen in the mountains and we could not open the door. We have to jump and breathe in order to warm ourselves. So it was really existential, and we sometimes use our car also in performance itself. And there is so beauty to look at it now back. You know, that was the two people being in love and doing their work. And straight from the car, from where we park and live, we went into the museum and do memorabilia, which was become very historical work, right, looking back.
And as she told me, our life together, this urban nomadic life in that ugly Citroën HY corrugated iron truck, it might have been the most happy time in our life.
This was just the only life I had. I was thinking we will live and work like this the rest of our life. It was no doubt in me. And we had a very male-female relationship and very, in a way, old-fashioned in life. I mean, you know, Ulay was really taking care of money because I didn't have even a credit card. I had a passport with Yugoslav who didn't worth anything. So I didn't have absolutely any idea of practical things. So he would ask for the grants, work with Polaroids and bring the money. And then I would get every week a certain amount of money, which is very little, to take care of the food for dog, for us, and the wash and iron our clothes, exactly what women do. And then he will provide with the rest. And then we will get together and make art. And this was like just perfect. It was, I have to say that I'm very, from 12 years we lived together, 9 years was incredibly great. And then 3 years was really, really, really bad. But you know, some people in life don't have even these 9 years. We have to be grateful to that. You know, he actually bring me that masculine part, that I don't need to be male and female at the same time, as he didn't need to be any more male and female at the same time. I was this other half, and he was this other half. So we put this male and female together, and we really work with the idea that ego is not important, that we have to create something which we call third energy, that self.
What we did in performance was actually the absolutely opposite of how we understood, how we lived and loved each other. Completely opposite.
And from that all the ideas came, and we really would mix ideas together. And we never till now, I don't know if he did, but I never reveal which idea is from who, because very important was this is all together as one big mix.
So we created our emotional or psychological or frustrated outbursts, but also together. And, well, I don't know how a shrink would think about it, but it helped very much the two of us to do in our private life.
And looking now back, this relation was extremely important for history of performance art. They're all historical pieces, and I think that they came out of the amazing mixture of our existence, our love for each other, and incredibly dedicated work. We really was going into this with all our force.
Well, I'm not sure whether what we demonstrated to a broader audience would be a remedy to keep relations going, or what was more shocking. Certainly many of the early performances of Marina and mine were very uncomfortable. But that was the idea. We wanted to take the conflict, possible conflict of relations, to an extreme. And meeting with memories and experiences of onlookers' relations failures in demonstrating traumatic fears or experiences of relation between man and woman at a time.
You know, every work was bringing experience and bringing us to the next one. So you can't just isolate it one work. I think this was Ulay period. This is our period being together. It was a very important part of my life. I look at our work as a body of work. And I think body work, relation work is the strongest, absolutely. Then we have Night Sea Crossing becomes such an important work for later my own development.
I think one of my favorite pieces is Relation in Movement. That involves our house, our truck or van in Paris, with some strange help. We got the car driving in this basin. It was about 1 meter high, a marble basin of about maybe 20 by 20 or 25 by 25 meters. And the idea was that we integrate and the car and the dog and Marina and me and our whole household in one performance. So we start driving. I manually was driving the car in a circle within the parameters of this basin with 1 meter tall walls. We went from the early afternoon into the night with lights on. And we went from the night into the day again. So we were making actually 2,226 circles over 16 hours. And the car became so overheated. So, the oil was running out. It burned in the marble a black circle from the hot oil. And that black circle stood there for more than 10 years. Obviously, Marina and me did not give up the idea that a relation is possible. I mean, eventually our relation also broke up, but for very different reasons.
It was wonderful. We first was doing this relation works, which was very strong, and then it became end of 70s when everybody, the market was changing. There was much more, the performance art was not anymore in focus of anybody because there was forcing the performance artists to start producing something that could be sellable. And we just didn't want to go into this game.
Artists are often very egocentric people. Most artists work in solitude. They hide themselves away and work on their painting or what. I never worked in solitude. Marina did work in solitude as a youngster, with making painting and stuff like this. I never made a painting in my life. You are a social figure, and you execute your art in a social context, between audience and you and vice versa.
Our performance became Night Sea Crossing, which was a very important piece, just like creating tableau vivant, which we have life energy, life force in the museum to show. This was our response to the painting. Actually, we create our own painting ourselves. And that actually Night Sea Crossing was really also beginning of end for us, because there was the moment when Ulay, his physical construction was so fragile and he really was skinny, and I'm not.
I have a high metabolism, I lose rapidly weight, I can't sit easy on my bum, so I can control motionlessness by meditation. So actually I could not match Marina's intentions and qualities for doing the same thing. We met with our limitations. And then when I say we met with our limitations, is that Marina obviously found different limitations within herself than I found limitations within myself.
So he could sit more on these chairs than I could, less on the chair than I can do. And there was a moment that he had to stand up, and he was expecting me to do. And I didn't reach my limit, and I didn't see a reason why I should do it, so I didn't. So they become like really the kind of breaking point in our relationship.
We gave life, a relation, yet overknew a chance, because we both believed and sensed that we could make a difference.
I think the struggle was that he could not accept that we became this very known, ideal couple of performance art that everybody admire.
Sxxx you know, I think from after 1980, 81, the Ulay Abramovic, or if you like, Abramovic Ulay couple became an institute. And I noticed that people's behavior towards us was changing. They're more like semi-celebrities, an institute, and a person like me, from deep in my heart and in my guts, I had always a flirt with anarchy. So when the anarchist becomes an institute, that's of course ridiculous.
I think that was, people was watching us, we become like as idols. And I don't think he could take that. It was too much for him in real life. And to me it was like just a normal kind of result of so much work we've been doing. And he was preferring more anonymity.
So our try again for merging in a relation in a very particular way, with very particular means, under very particular circumstances, brought some energy and some aspects of perspectives to, definitely to art and art history. Because art history needed blood. Art history is so boring, unbelievable. And I don't care at all for it. So being no part of it myself, that was never the intention, never.
And then also how the people like to divide us, the people look performance and we always judge who is better or who is not. It was not a game, it was not a competition. It was two people performing work that should be seen as one. And that was also dividing us. And that's how the problem starts, you know.
What we have done together, especially in the period between 76 and 80, we did not know. It could turn out complete shit or something else, but we never speculated on something else, never.
I think there was lots of different already signs that I could not see or read, that of his unhappiness about our being overexposed, our travel too much, that our life become just work and work and work.
Well, eventually it grew to be doomed to end. I mean, it was all very intensive. Our private life, and from the private life, the performances was very, very, very intensive. And I believe that we began to exhaust ourselves.
And to me it was completely fine, because when he left, I'm just exactly what I'm doing, the same thing, I never stopped. And he wants something else, and I could not recognize that.
But from 1980 on, things have changed. Things became more meditative, more tableau vivant-like, with much more repetition, even with costumes and things like this. And that is actually more Marina's part, and she is really good in it. But for me, it was a little bit off my initial track and ambitions and passion.
But somehow, the trust between us stopped, and we just was not the same. People have moments together. It's like a planets. It's like a, like a different gravitation. Take them to different galaxies, and then was end. And then was very difficult for me, because I hate to admit failure. And to me, stop working with Ulay was a big failure.
I think for her, it was very difficult to go on alone. For me, it was actually unthinkable to go on alone. So it was actually heartbreaking for both of us. From 1986 on, our communication was almost zero. So there was a break, slowly, and it was like a crack in the wall who slowly opens, slowly, slowly. So slow you actually can't see it. Maybe other people felt it.
I wanted this to continue because I was thinking that working alone is less than working together. Two people bringing two ideas together to create one is stronger than just one. It's very difficult for two artists to work together and the two egos melt in one. And we can do only this for a certain amount of time, and then we have to leave because it didn't work anymore. And then after, you know, everything fall apart because life is like that. And we split walking the Great Wall of China.
We were working so long on the Great Wall Walk, and we definitely wanted to do it because it sounded like an epic work, which it was. And I'm a walker, better than a sitter.
He started in Gobi Desert, I started in Yellow Sea, and each we walk 2,500 kilometers to say goodbye.
So we start on either end of the Great Wall and walk towards each other, and then Marina walks 3 months, 2,500 kilometers. I walked 3 months, 2,500 kilometers. And when we eventually met, we said goodbye. And that was a good stoppage.
And a friend of mine, Willem Dafoe, which remake the theater piece Life and Death of Marina Abramovic with Bob Wilson, he just said recently, but why you just didn't make phone call? Which would be easier. But we didn't. We just walked this wall to say goodbye. And I think that, you know, walking the Great Walls of China, yes, it was saying goodbye. Yes, it was difficult, but become epic. You know, become something that inspires so many people.
We stopped communicating, I think, for 20 years. Well, Marina picked up her strength and her incredible willpower to go on, and she did an amazing job. I mean, come on. Marina did just an unbelievable job, you know. I was more withdrawn. I withdrew from the market, the galleries, mostly museum shows and so on. So. And that's me, you know. Of course, we both were hurt. When I'm hurt, I'm like a cat. I withdraw. And Marina has more reason to continue. Really powerful.
Which I like about art who hits you in the stomach, that you have emotional reaction. You know, everything you have to see in time. If you ask how I sum up the relationship, if you ask me this 20 years ago, would be one answer. If you ask me 10 years ago, if you ask me even 1 year ago, would be a different answer. But now, you know, everything is changing, how we are changing, how perspective of people are changing.
And, you know, I tell you, a woman like Marina is really Balkanesque. If love is broken, that turns to hate. She hated me.
You know, it was the moments that I hate him. It was the moments I was so angry. It was the moments that I would never want to talk to him. It was all these moments was coming. And then we came to this kind of moment of really peace. So when we think about my show here, you have this in the early period, which is really to deal with the body and the blood and limits and physical involvement. And then you have this big period. Is Ulay here, by the way? Ulay? You're here. I didn't see anything at all.
I'm sorry, no, I'm not supposed to. I'm not prepared. I didn't rehearse. I'm just a performance artist.
Say hello, people can see you. Just to see.
Okay, nice. A nice a nice intermezzo. Well, for me, you know, Marina's talk here today, it comes over to me very different, because I happen to know all the stories. I not only happen to know all the stories, I lived through and with it. But your presentation is great, and I think everybody is very happy with it. So
What was the true
continue.
story? Can you give me your part? It's always good to have
Don't forget to tell a joke.
two points of view. Okay. It was just the moment that we actually, I give up. I give up all the anger, all the hate, all the rest. And I think what is left this really beautiful work that we left behind. And this is what matters.
Everything naughty, nasty, disagreeable or whatever from the past, we drop. And since we became good friends again. That's a beautiful story, actually.
Red wine, a jar of honey, a razor blade, a little spoon, and a whip, like a leather whip. I was cutting the time 5-point star for that TV program on body art. He really helped me to heal my wounds. He take care of them. He put the gauze. He was really somebody I trust him right away. I went to her and I looked at her start. She was a little exhausted, of course. I mean, Marina is extremely strong. She can have a lot, especially things she self-inflicts. She can have a lot. And then I started nursing her wounds. And I think that was the touch. I said to everybody, oh, this is my birthday, and he said, this is my birthday too. And she said, can you prove that? I said, well, I don't carry a passport with me around, but I have a little pocket agenda, and I have this marot. When I buy a new agenda, the first thing I do, I rip off November the 30th page, and that's what I could show. We both had a, diary with the 30 November rip-off, because I hated my birthday. I was so sad on my birthday, and I never liked it, and I always got from my parents wrong presents. So the first time I would buy a new diary, I was always 30 November take out. He'd ripped the same. And then also we had the same way of putting our hair together. He both had the long hair, and he was fixing his hair with chopsticks, and as me. So it was beginning of something, curious, something very emotional and very sexual. We made a deal to come together again. Well, to make it fair as possible, we decided to meet again at a geographic place right in the middle between Amsterdam and Belgrade. And then we decided to meet in Prague, which was a geographical middle between Amsterdam and Belgrade. And of course, it became more and more love, physical love, sexual love, emotional love, soul, brother, sister love, whatever.
In our investigation into whether Beyonce is a witch, we still kind of came up empty-handed, which led us to another little piece of evidence. Boom. And that is the head Serbian BIC, Marina Abramovic. Abramovic. Now, this is not to be confused with another witch on this channel. Lima Abramovic, I know the likelihood for confusion is uncanny, and Lima's mother's accent sounds uncannily similar. I'm talking, I would close my eyes, I wouldn't know who was talking.
Please, this not can go public.
My email become public.
That's interesting to me. Anyway, Marina Abramovic alleges to be a so-called performance artist. And honestly, she may very well be, but it ain't no performance I ever want to go to or see or be around or experience in any way for any reason. It looks depraved. I'll just leave it at that. I rebuke. Thus for entertainment, education purposes only. It's nasty. I hate watching her stuff. She's disgusting. She disgusts me. She is a grotesque and detestable individual. But anyway, so Marina has been prominently featured in at least one Jay-Z music video, and it is cringe and embarrassing AF. Like, I legit almost felt secondhand embarrassed for Jay-Z. Then I came to my senses, but poor thing, bless his heart, Marina is literally laughing right in his face. But that's not the only time he's been seen hanging out with her and, you know, their little crew that they hang out with. And I know y'all want me to do a whole entire video investigation on this lady, but I honestly cannot look at her face or hear her voice or look at her depraved and detestable and grotesque. I'm not calling it art. Sorry. Work product. I can't look at it for longer than a few minutes, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do a whole investigation on her. She's deplorable. Anyway, apparently she's like good friends with like Hillary Clinton. That's, I think, what I wanted to, how it's like confirmed that Hillary did actually go.
No, you've been accused essentially of doing black magic in order to help Hillary Clinton. I mean, that's kind of
where we are with this. Creating spirit cooking dinner with the pig blood, basically.
Exactly, right.
Okay, this is how insanity of this election is. It's just incredible. So I have to just tell you, first of all, what is happening now. My email become public. I have to change my email. I have to change my telephone. My all credit cards are blocked. I can't take any money out. It's incredible because everything been hacked. So what happened is that I give context to the public. You know, I have my art institute called Abramovic Marina Institute for Long Duration Performance Art. So I've been raising the money through Kickstarter. Tony Podesta, who is the brother of John Podesta, who
is Hillary Clinton's campaign manager.
Exactly. He is my collector since more than 30 years of my work and friend. So he helped with donating some money to this institute, like many other people, 4,500 people to tell you. And then I had rewards, and some rewards is the dinner with me. So I invite 10 people for this dinner and called spirit cooking, because spirit cooking is my work since I do it since 90s, and it is actually poetry.
And like, what in the world is that woman enjoying this art for? I mean, look at her. She enjoys the clowns.
What's the difference for a woman in comedy than a man in comedy? Can they do the same thing?
Comedy is okay, but clown is more difficult.
Anyway, alas. And from everything I know about witches, I mean, if you just take one look at this woman's face, especially this side profile, I don't even think you ever had to see a witch before in your life to know for a fact Marina Abramovic is a witch. I mean, look at the chin, the nose curl, the way the black hair, the way she looks like she's gonna hurt you or something. That looks like a witch to me, but apparently she denies that she's a witch. She said she ain't a witch. I mean, maybe she never actually said that. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe she just tried to imply it. I need to go back and see if I can get her actually denying it, because that would open a whole new investigation. But anyway, she said she ain't. So for the purposes of this thing I wrote, it's inconclusive. Alas, she denies the witchcraft allegation and says that her spirit cookbook was just a book of poems that weren't meant to be taken literally.
And it is actually poetry.
But then she kind of contradicts herself a little bit in this radio interview where she literally calls that cooking style her life's work that she's been doing for 30 years. So it's inconclusive whether or not she even meant to write that book as poetry or literal, because she was literally putting it on the walls in the museum, but I can't talk about it too much more. Anyway, it's hard to say whether her association with Jay-Z makes Beyonce a witch by association. That's basically the conclusion there. But it certainly puts Jay-Z and Beyonce one additional connection point away from the most powerful politicians in this country, because Marina is a very politically connected individual. We have a whole side note podcast episode thing coming out on that later.
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yeah. So we'll get into that later. But this kind of makes me question some of the other allegations in the various lawsuits about how like maybe the police and the government and everybody is involved in some of this scheme, because I mean, like, it's not hard to imagine that they could have those connections. I don't know. Inconclusive, y'all. Innocent until proven guilty. But I know what a lot of y'all are thinking. You're probably thinking something along the lines of this guy's comment, that these celebrities are victims of deranged and unhinged schizophrenic lunatics. This guy had put this comment up talking about this is a textbook example of the schizophrenia or something like that. And that's what they said about Amanda Rabb. But then when you look into her allegations, supposedly so schizophrenic, it was like she was being followed and used as an experiment. And I mean, she did say some other stuff like she was cloned, but like, I don't know, some of those it's kind of like this, like some of the allegations were serious and sincere. It wasn't like, well, we're supposed to not believe anything she says. That's what they want you to do. In the current popular opinion, and even of many judges, we live in a time where if someone has a diagnosis of a certain mental illness, especially schizophrenia, then the general consensus in polite society is to essentially disregard any and everything that person ever says. It's basically encouraged to not believe a single word out of a schizophrenic person's mouth. And I don't know how we got there exactly, because I don't believe any mental health diagnosis should make you discount every word that comes out of someone's mouth. I mean, I guess unless the mental health diagnosis is pathological liar, but even still, I mean, I digress. What I find miraculous and convenient is that any time someone alleges they are being stalked, harassed, or experimented on by the government, they are assumed to be schizophrenic. In fact, it's one of the symptoms of schizophrenia that you think the government is stalking you. It's like a textbook, like this guy said, textbook. By no means am I a doctor, and I don't even play one on YouTube. Please go and seek out your own medical help. It ain't coming from me, all right, with your doctor. But hear me out. Isn't it convenient for the powers that be that there's a whole entire diagnosis that the symptoms for which include specifically the afflicted person believes they're being monitored, stalked, or harassed with technology by the government or by anybody? And there's a very limited set of circumstances that allows the government to take away our rights without due process. And one of those circumstances is if a person has schizophrenia. Like, really think about it. A symptom of schizophrenia is thinking the government or Beyonce or whoever famous person is stalking you or experimenting on you. And schizophrenia is one of the few reasons the government can take you against your will into forced psychiatric incarceration, where they can medicate you, drug you, keep you.
Hey everybody, today I'm going to talk with you about patient rights during a 5150.
Actually, I'll rearrange the statements as a question. I think that's going to drive the point home a little bit better. Let me ask you this. Let's travel over to the hypothetical dimension, somewhere else, not here, we don't live there, somewhere else, just for a few seconds. Let's say we're in a reality where Beyonce and Jay-Z are serial stalker witchcraft practitioners who are abusing people and stealing their IP and killing their kittens with witchcraft and magic, or anything else, poison. In that dimension over there, where do these purported victims go for help, justice? Because the allegation that Beyonce or Jay-Z could possibly be involved in this type of activity is dismissed outright by federal judges as delusional without ever hearing or seeing any evidence. Sua sponte on their own, without anybody responding, they just said, no, it's delusional. I don't know, it's just things to think about. But then there's all these alternative allegations that no. Beyonce is not a mastermind extreme witch. On the contrary. En contraire, she is a victim herself, and she is trapped in her own basement or something. I'll insert here some clips from the more conspiratorial side of the social media, and I'll let you know what the girlies and everybody else been saying about all that. Hopefully we don't have to start a free Beyonce movement anytime soon.
There's been a lot of speculation lately that Jay-Z is holding Beyonce hostage in their marriage and giving her illegal substances to keep her under control. Many fans have also noticed that Beyonce completely lost her spark ever since Jay got exposed for cheating, and they're saying it's truly terrifying how hypnotized and dazed Beyonce looks these days.
But yeah, I mean, I set out to investigate whether or not Beyonce is an extreme witch, and pretty much intended to debunk very easily that Beyonce is an extreme witch, but I haven't seen it debunked anywhere in court. And even the witches themselves, purported witches, they couldn't really tell me whether she's an extreme witch or not. The extreme witch allegations were not dismissed on any factual grounds. They were dismissed because there was a failure to prosecute. Was there a settlement? I don't know, but there was allegedly a settlement, and then now dismissed as frivolous Charlene Latham case. And I could keep going like this for probably like a year or something. Anyway, that's all I really have for today. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Love you, mean it. Bye.
You've just been invited to the swaggiest party in the city. Lucky you. Sure, you may just be a poor college student surviving paycheck to paycheck, but for reasons currently unknown to you, the local movers and shakers at a mansion outside of town really want you to attend. But when you arrive, you notice everyone seems to be about 60 years older than you. Immediately, your mind is racing, wondering if you've been invited to some creepy, eyes wide shut sex party, or if you're just about to have your body donated to one of their rich old brains, like in Jordan Peele's movie Get Out. But hey, don't worry about it. They don't want your body in either sense. They just want your blood. That's right, the sweet red elixir of life. And no, they're not part of some deranged blood cult. They're actually customers to a new Silicon Valley startup offering a process known as young blood transfusion, which, by the way, is literally exactly what it sounds like. Rich old people are buying young people's blood to maintain their youth and vitality. Let's talk about the how, where, when, and why. And yes, this is really happening. Sometimes also called parabiosis, young blood transfusions take a seat beside cryonics and head transplants as semi-scientific attempts to pursue immortality. The fact is, very few people want to die, and the rich even less so, seeing as they've got it pretty good as it is. Pandering to wealthy old people's fear of mortality is the entire business model of Ambrosia LLC, the creepily named startup created by entrepreneur Jesse Karmazin. It is worth noting that while Karmazin claims he's a medical doctor, the exact nature of his supposed medical credentials has never really been made clear. Ambrosia LLC offered a unique service, living beyond your years with regular paid blood transfusions. Karmazin wasn't just promising smoothed wrinkles or slight improvements to your quality of life either. In one interview, he claimed that what the company was offering was pretty much close to immortality. Count Dracula would be inclined to agree.